What's the deal, my people? You know it is Don Tony Teflon, and I'm back at you, breaking down another Game of Thrones video for things you missed, Easter eggs, and hidden clues that explains what it all means for Game of Thrones Season 8. And in this video, I believe I have found and uncovered a hidden clue of something that many people have missed that explains exactly how it all ends for Bran Stark and the Night's King.
Why did you help us?
Three-eyed Raven sent for me.
The Three-eyed Raven's dead.
Now he lives again.
And Bran Stark wakes up. Now this to me is one of the most important scenes in all of Game of Thrones, and I think that this scene right here tells you exactly what's going on with Bran Stark and how he's going to have to defeat the Night's King. So let's break this down. So we start off with Mira doing the best Hodor impression on Bran while they're running from the Three-Eyed Raven's cave, tree, whatever, from the Whites right now. Right? It's the Whites that are chasing them. We don't see any White Walkers, just the Whites. And while they're being chased at this particular time, we see Bran have 3 separate visions, and the visions go like this. So why is Bran having these visions at this particular time, and what do these visions mean? We have to remember the time he's having them. So let's take a look at what they were. First, we see 2 people from the Alchemist Guild. This only indicates wildfire being made. So we're trying to point out wildfire. Next, we see a dragon flying over top King's Landing. Next, after that, it's the Mad King screaming, "Burn them all." After that, we see the Night's King raising his arm, and we know when he raised his arm, he raised the dead from Hardhome, which was the next picture that we seen. After that, we seen Bran falling from the building or getting pushed out the tower, which started his powers and started Bran Stark's whole journey towards the Three-Eyed Raven. Then we see a personal memory of Catelyn getting her throat cut at the Red Wedding, and then we see a dragon flying over top. Now, after we see the dragon, we see another picture of a dragon over King's Landing, shadow again, and then we see the birth of the dragons with Dany. Right after the birth, we see the White Walker walking the baby over to the Night's King, and when the Night's King gets the baby, then we see the Night's King make the baby into a brand new White Walker. So we got the birth of the dragons, and then we get the birth of the White Walkers right after, and that is immediately followed by a dragon flying overhead. The same picture of the dragon flying overhead. Right again to Mad King Aerys doing his burn them all impression. Right back to Hardhome and the Night's King raising the dead. Again, we see a dragon flying over top of something that leads to the dragon flying over top of King's Landing. Right from there, the birth of the dragons again, and after the birth of the dragons, as always, we see the birth of the White Walkers when we see the Night's King touch the baby and make the baby into a White Walker. And then after we see the baby being made to a White Walker, the final memory we get is Bran Stark remembering or finding out how his father actually passed away and got his head chopped off with ice. Now, is there any pattern that we could take from this? And I believe so. Now, the first one is dealing with the Mad King. When you see the Mad King, the first image before him is always a dragon flying overhead, then the Mad King, and then something to do with the White Walkers. That's the pattern that we see with the Mad King. Since the first 2 pictures that start off this vision before that are 2 pictures of wildfire, I believe that this shows that when the Mad King was screaming, "Burn them all," he was talking about the dragon that he seen in the vision flying overhead, and also of all the Whites and the Night's King. That is the reason why he's screaming, "Burn them all." He's not talking about the people of King's Landing. just the White Walkers, the Night's King, and the dragon that's flying overhead. So I think that's to say that Bran Stark will use wildfire to stop the dragon that flies overhead King's Landing when that dragon makes its way down there. And since we've seen the Night's King with the dragon flying overhead, it's easy to see that the dragon that will be flying over King's Landing is the Night's King on his undead dragon. Now the next pattern we can clearly see is that every time we see Dany birthing dragons, we see the Night's King making White Walkers. Because one can't be without the other. They are the cause and the effect. They have to be together. Now Bran's next vision is a little bit slower, but it goes like this.
Burn them all!
Where's my sister?
So our next set of visions go a little something like this. Alright, we start off with the ravens being released. After that, we see the wildfire being made, and then we see the wildfire being stored. We see the Mad King Ares again. After that, we see the wildfire exploding. We see the wildfire being stored twice back to back, and then we see Jaime about to stab the Mad King. Ned start looking for his sister. We see the bed of blood. After that, we see Jaime stabbing the Mad King in the back. We see Robb Stark being stabbed. We see Jaime killing the Mad King. We see a raven flying, and then we see Robb Stark dying. We see the Night's King being made, and then we see Jon Snow fighting a White Walker. Jaime Lannister sitting on the Iron Throne. Wildfire being blown up, a dragon flying overhead, the birth of the dragons, which is followed by the birth of the White Walkers. As always, every time we see that scene, we see these following it, no matter what division. We see the Mad King being stabbed, we see the Night's King being made, we see Jaime Lannister again approaching the Mad King, and then we see the wildfire going off. Now, what do all these visions mean? I'm going to tell you, but right before I do, let me show you the last vision. Now, other than the first two shots, this last vision is 100% about the Battle of Hardhome, except for the end too, when Bran Stark gets his arm grabbed. Now, as I said before in other videos, you see the Night's King's not trying to harm Bran. He's just grabbing him. And this grab is what leads to Bran getting the mark on his arm. So what is this all have to do with everything? What does these visions mean? Well, I will tell you. I believe that it means that everything that you've seen happen, Bran Stark is responsible for.
Three-eyed raven sent for me.
The Red Raven's dead.
Now he lives again.
You can't kill it, you know.
Why not?
Because the raven is you.
Now you have to remember what I told you in the beginning of this video from the jump. They are running away from the whites chasing them. Why? Because Hodor is holding the door. Alright? By Bran Stark going into Hodor's body in the past, causing him, his past self, to see his own death in the future, making him go into have a seizure, and traumatizing him so bad that for the rest of his life, the only thing he said was Hodor. And in every one of these clips, we are being shown Bran affecting the past in the same exact way, and the results of it. And that's saying that Bran and Blood Raven are merged as the same person. That is why we are showing these clips. To prove it, I'll put the clips again in the exact same order. Check it. You first see the ravens being released. ravens meaning blood raven. That's why you're seeing this cave. Next thing you see is wildfire being made. All the wildfire being put in the buckets. And who ordered the wildfire to be made? The wildfire was ordered to be made by the Mad King Ares. But the whole propaganda was because he was saying burn them all, everyone thought he wanted to burn all the people. And that's not what he wanted to do with the wildfire. So when he was gathering all the wildfire up, this gave Sir Jaime Lannister the reason and the excuse to kill him. And it was Bran or Bloodraven, whoever you want to say, showed Mad King Ares the future of the Night's King and his army. The Night's King flying over King's Landing and the Whites approaching, that got him to say, burn them all, just like Hodor said, Hodor. That brings us to Benjen, or should we just call him Cold Hands, because that's who he is in the show, who was sent here to protect Bran by Bran. Bran is the one who sent him here, and in fact, it's a good chance that Bran could still be controlling him right now.
Uncle Benjen. The last letter John wrote me said you'd been lost beyond the wall.
And that is how he found Benjen, from that letter that John wrote him.
The White Walker stabbed me in the gut with a sword of ice. Left me there to die, to churn. The children found me.
The children found you, but it was Bran who sent the children to find you. Because we all know what happens to people when they get stabbed by the White Walker's ice spear. They usually die instantly. But for some reason, this man didn't die. And let's listen why.
To stop the Walker's magic from taking hold.
How?
The same way they made the Walkers in the first place. You saw it yourself.
Dragon glass. A shard of dragon glass plunged into your heart.
You are the three-eyed raven, no?
Now, if he's not being controlled by Bran, or he wasn't brought back by Bran, how does he know that Bran seen the vision of the White Walkers being changed? How would he know that? The only way he knows is because Bran is the one who could be controlling him right now. That's how powerful Bran could be, that future Bran could still be controlling Benjen right now. Because we know what Benjen is. He says it himself.
The wall's not just ice and stone. Ancient spells were carved into its foundations. Strong magic. To protect men from what lies beyond. And while it stands, the dead cannot pass. I cannot pass.
Benjen is dead, just like he said. And who else do we know that talks to dead people and controls them? Why, none other than the Night's King. And Benjen Stark said he was created or saved by a piece of dragonglass being shoved into his heart. Don't be surprised at the end of the series if you see the Night's King's dragonglass being removed from his heart and him melting away into Bran Stark. So, if you like the way I do this, please thumbs up this, please spread this across the realm, and please subscribe. And leave your comments and how you feel in the comment section. And until next time, you know who it is. Peace, and stay sexy.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
I want him dead. I want his family dead. I want his house burnt to the ground. I want to go to the middle of the night. I want to piss on his head.
What?
I said no more shines. Maybe you didn't hear about it. You've been away a long time. They didn't go up there and tell you. I don't shine shoes anymore.
Relax, will you, for crying out? What's getting to you? I'm breaking your balls a little bit, that's all. I'm only kidding with you.
Sometimes you don't sound like you're kidding. You know, there's a lot of people around.
So say good night to the bad guy. Come on.
The last time you're gonna see a bad guy like this again, let me tell you. I got 2 grenades in my house. I blow up all Mulberry Street before I give you up. You understand? I don't know what I would do if there's something wrong. You understand? I die with you.